this is about the secular family experiencing awe and wonder. Now, I named this because of Oprah, who said that atheists could not experience awe. Now, this made me actually very angry. That was one of my, moments. It just, struck me. And so, I'm really proud to be an atheist, and I really believe that atheists can experience the universe in the real sense of the word awe, because we don't believe in a God and all this magical stuff. To me, the idea of looking through God's eyes discredits every living organism in the universe. And we're all made of star stuff, right, John? Yep. And that's awesome. So our speakers today are also awesome. So Jim Helton comes to us from American Atheists, and there is a little blurb in our paper here, our program, that is not quite right. I said that he was a state director. He is no longer the state director. He is the national field organizer. And very energetic. I have to give him a lot of credit. He's a busy guy. He's been from one convention to another. And he's raising 2 teenagers, one of which his daughter is here to speak. And I'll let him start, and then he can introduce Kelly to you.
Thank you. My name is Jim Helton. I am a full-time employee with American Atheists. I am the national field organizer. When they asked me to speak about parenting, I said I kind of like to talk about the initiative that American Atheists is doing, but instead of talking about parenting, because my daughter says I'm a horrible parent, I would just bring her, and then she'd be happy to tell you what she's done as a student activist. A little bit about me. The very first thing I went to was the Reason Rally. It was the very first atheist event. I was only an atheist for a few months, and I came back from that and wanted to change the world. I was highly motivated, but I didn't know how. Then I said, well, what can I do around me? So I figured the best place to start was in my own backyard. So I started this group called the Tri-State Freethinkers, which some of you may have heard of. It's arguably one of the most active groups in the entire country. We hosted over 277 events last year. It was American Atheist Affiliate of the Year for Activism, Foundation Beyond Belief, Give Me Food, Give Me Shelter with 53 community service projects, Kentucky for the Commonwealth activist group, and that was probably one of the most interesting ones because that's of all groups. That's not an atheist award, that was just activists for the entire state of all the grassroots groups. I was very proud of this. One of the first things we did was adopt a highway. Now I know a lot of people adopt highways in free thought groups, but we did it in front of the Creation Museum in Arkansas. So it did. We classify all our events under activism or community service. This was a twofer. But if you notice, one of these has a little paint spot on it. Now, I'm surprised it took them this long, but they threw paintballs at our signs to cover up all of our signs. And we could have had the state replace them for free, but we decided not to. We got out a paintbrush and painted over them, and we wanted that there to let them know what atheists have to go through and some of the discrimination we face to normalize atheism. So this became a badge of honor and our unofficial new logo, which my daughter is wearing with her shirt. So that became the new unofficial logo. But today, I'm going to talk about some of the directors and affiliates with the American Atheist Program. I want to do a recap of the future of atheist activism that I rolled out last year, what we're currently doing now, share some success stories, and then share our ACES program. So you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before I bring Kelly up here. But in the future of atheist activism, we were redefining atheism. When you think of atheist issues, isn't this traditionally what we think of? And we've heard of this today, Bibles in public schools, crosses on public land, 10 commandments. This is the separation of church and state that we fight through every day. And in this current environment, I would say it's even getting worse. We're seeing even more and more of this. And this is important work on the legal front. But we posed a question to people and said, are these atheist issues? What about dying with dignity? Would you consider this an atheist issue?
Yeah.
What about sex education?
Yes.
I love this crowd. Last year, I had to explain for a half hour why these were atheist issues. The environment has changed. What about LGBT issues? Abortion? Women's rights? Science and history? And racial justice? So in defining atheist issues, here were the 3 questions we asked. Because we wanted to say, because it is a complicated question, what is an atheist issue, and how do we determine this? And so I laid out 3 criteria. Who's behind the issue? Is it religion? Is it an equal rights issue? Is religion trying to impose its belief on everyone else? And if we had a true separation of church and state, would these issues go away? And I will say every single issue but one on that list, every single one of those would go away. Except for racial equality. Well, we can blame the KKK for being a Christian hate group. If we took care of that problem, we would still have a racial injustice problem. But beyond that, we would not be talking about abortion, dying with dignity, LGBT rights, sex education. If we had a true separation of church and state, these issues would go away. So if that's the case, while we traditionally only fight on the one end, we need to be in the space where religion is attacking our rights. And I don't think we've done a good job at that as a whole. But I wanted to, so those were the issues for our new campaign that we proposed. But I wanted to ask a 4th question. And create a new criteria as well this year. What if religion is offered as the solution? So what do I mean by this? And I want to give you some examples. You've heard people say, if we banned abortion and the gays, we could stop hurricanes. If we want our students to be safe, we need thoughts and prayers. We need In God We Trust for schools. And one governor prayed for snow and rain, and they're doing it again this year because they have evidence it worked the previous year. Now, when I became a full-time employee of American Atheist, I did not think I'd had to be a weatherman. I did not think that was in my job description. And American Atheists can't respond to every local jackass legislator that talks about these issues. But you can. And let me rephrase that. Not only do I think you can, I think you should. If religion is offered as a solution instead of an evidence-based solution, you should respond and call them out. Now, when the gun debate, as atheists, do we need to get into the weeds of every single thing? I would argue no, it's not our area of expertise. But if you're doing thoughts and prayers instead of evidence-based solutions, we need to call them out. We can defer to the groups that are doing these things specifically as an atheist issue. As a humanist issue, you can go way further into these issues. But these are things that we would like local groups to respond to, because these are atheist issues. We need to be in the space that religion is discriminating and imposing its belief, because it's harmful. Well, people think thoughts and prayers doesn't do anything. I disagree. When you're putting that up and saying we're going to do thoughts and prayers for schools, it's killing kids. We are not passing any legislation. We are not doing anything to protect them. So it's not that it's not doing anything. It's actually harmful because people think they are doing something, and that's problematic. And this is why we need to get out of the pubs and into the state houses. While sitting around drinking and about religion is my favorite pastime, and I am not going to argue or shame anyone that's doing that, but we must do more. We have to do more to do this. And so here's what we're doing today. We have a new bill tracker where all of our directors in all the states, we're showing bills that we are supporting and opposing at a state level. If you as individuals would like to support this bill, we'll write the testimony for you and send it to you so that you can stand up as an atheist in your state house and give testimony. Now, some of you be looking like, that sounds scary. My daughter has done this at 13 years old. Has gone to the Ohio State House and fought against the 6-week abortion ban. These are things the average person can do. And there are some crazy bills out there. And things that we also support. There's way more we oppose than support. One of the ways we're fighting back is through our toolkits and presentations. While American Atheist is known for our federal legislation and throwing prayers out of schools, we want to go further. Like I said, we're going and providing support for state level legislation, not only opposing it, but we're also proposing policies around the country that have never been proposed before. And I'm very excited about those, and you're going to see those probably in the next session or two. We've already started drafting some of this legislation, And believe it or not, there are states out there where you can pass bills. Maybe not in Kentucky where I live. Michigan might be questionable, but there are states where we can, and we're working on that. But we want to even go a step further, which I don't know that anybody's doing this. We want to go all the way down to city council and school board and give these grassroots groups like yours resources and tools so that you can go after these policies. And these are just a few that were either completed or very close to being completed. And this is the importance of school boards. The LA Times reported in the 1990s the Christian right hijacked over 2,000 school boards. We want them back. My son's school, who's in high school, his school board was decided by 24 votes. And I don't think you understand when I say 24 votes. That wasn't the difference between the winner and the loser. That was 24 votes cast total. You go to a major city like Cincinnati, Detroit, you have a highly contested school board. Go 5 minutes outside the city into a little suburb and nobody's paying attention. Nobody is. Every school board meeting I went to, I was the only parent there every time once I went outside the city. Every time. And they put parents on there, the Christian right has done this, to impose creationism, prayers, all these types of things are because of the school board. So the very first thing we want to tackle is sex education. It is probably our #1 issue. And Kelly delivers a way better presentation on sex education than I do. But I want you to think about this. Our schools are teaching a policy of abstinence only till marriage, whose entire religion is based on a virgin getting pregnant. So think about that for a minute. And that's what we're teaching. Now that may sound funny, but that's absolutely what's going on. It is a horrible process. This is actually from Kelly's book. I screenshotted Kelly's book. So I'm going to ask you, the crowd, to see how knowledgeable this crowd is on sex education as humans. When you think of emotional effects about sex, you can just shout them out. What do you think of?
Fun.
Fun. What else? Happiness. What else?
Inequality.
Right. All right. You guys aren't very good at this. So let me give you the correct answers. Guilt. Disappointment. Depression. Sadness. Worry. Loneliness. And loss of self-esteem. Now I'm going to give them disappointment because we've all been there. But beyond that, the rest of these are horrible. Except for Mike, because he's a machine. But everybody else. This is word for word from her book. This isn't complicated. There's only 13 states that require comprehensive sex ed. It is legal in the state of Kentucky to tell the kids that babies come from a stork that's dropped on your step, as long as you tell them as long as you follow it, don't have sex till you're married. Colorado's the answer. They gave out free birth control and mandatory comprehensive sex ed. Their teen pregnancy, teen STI, and teen abortion rate fell by 40% overnight. We're not guessing. This is the answer. But let me repeat that. There's only 13 states that require medically accurate science sex ed. Only 13. We've spent over $1 billion on church-based things that teach this. And it's a church that comes in. When the church came in to teach it to my son at his public school, they said condoms have up to a 36% failure rate. He raised his hand and said, it's 2% if you teach us how to use them. The following day, he went to Planned Parenthood and passed out I Stand with Planned Parenthood t-shirts to his classmates, so when the church came back, they all had Planned Parenthood t-shirts. We have developed a step-by-step toolkit to take on this issue. Not as activists, not as an organization, as students, as parents, that you can go to your local school board and do this. And while I make fun of religion in a few of these slides, because it's just fun to do and it's easy, we actually take religion out of the argument and tell you not even to bring it up. Even when they say this isn't a religious-based program, don't fight. We stick to the science, we stick to the facts, and we've thrown programs out like this within 30 days. Some take a few more months, takes a little longer depending on where you're on the school year. This is so effective, Planned Parenthood has started contacting me around different states and cities asking if they can borrow our toolkit. Because some schools won't let Planned Parenthood in. But Planned Parenthood is now using our toolkit to give it to their members to get them to go in as parents and individuals with great success. And that is, I think, the biggest difference with this sex education movement that we put out against every other organization is this is designed for you to do it and go to your individual school or your state. And we're starting with the schools and district. And this has been widely successful to take down this campaign. And once you get one big city, like say Detroit, the other ones follow pretty quickly. It's easier. What about LGBT non-discrimination ordinances in cities? Can you refuse housing? Can you refuse service? Can you fire for being part of the LGBT community? Look at these numbers. It's only 20 states, 19 states, 20 states have protections that protect the LGBT community. People thought when we got marriage equality, LGBT was treated equally and everybody could put their protest signs and go home. That's not true. That only affected a few people. I would say the main obstacle to equality is religion. And this is just another example. And again, these are things you can do. We got this passed in Paducah, Kentucky. And if we can do it in Paducah, Kentucky, you can do it anywhere. That was just the city. What we are recommending is, depending on your state, a lot of these need to start at a grassroots, at school boards and cities. Go to your local city. Go to your county. Do this at the city level. If you round up enough cities, then you go after the state. But start small. Start with 3 easy wins. The bigger cities will take longer. The smaller cities can be done fairly quickly. And you know what we did? We went to cities, we went to school boards that wouldn't work with us or work with us. We got some of these passed. And if they wouldn't work with us, every legislator I voted for in Kentucky ran unopposed. I had the worst of the worst in every area. And when we went to them and said, hey, we would like an LGBT non-discrimination ordinances, and they said, we're not interested in protecting gay rights, we went to Indivisible, we went to Our Revolution, we went to other parties and said, run against these. And every single one of them is being ran opposed at the next election. That is the power that we have of not letting this discrimination go. We have the power to make change. And this toolkit gives you a step-by-step guide of how you as individuals can go after these things. And these are just a few of the type of bills of discrimination that people pose. Some states are making it so that some cities can't pass discrimination equality. Going back to the schools, some states say you can't mention the LGBT community, but if you do, it has to be negative. These are actually state laws today. In more than one state, and not just in the Bible Belt. What about Gideons? Do you have a Gideons problem in Michigan in the public schools? Some say, I think you'd be surprised. They're everywhere. They've passed out over 1 billion Bibles. They pass out like 80 million a year. My favorite quote is, their sole purpose is to lead people to Jesus Christ, but in their bylaws it says we can't appear to be leading people to Jesus Christ. Yeah. Now, they do over 20 different facilities and Bible distributions. Most people aren't aware of that either. They just think of them in the hotel room. But public schools is their main target. They have multiple distribution methods. And it's deceptive. Like, if I'm in business and I want to go after a district, I would go after the superintendent or the principal. You go after the high-level person to get it down. They say don't do that. This is in their bylaws. They say go after a teacher, and better yet, go after a teacher's aide, somebody that doesn't know the law, somebody that doesn't know the policies, and get your Bibles in there. But there is a secret way to stop them. This is the information I'm going to give you. If you're going to remember anything from the Gideons, it's this sentence right here. If any method of distribution has the potential to create media publicity, the distribution must be canceled or postponed. So you know what we did when we found out where they were going to be and when? We put out a press release that said atheists descend on public schools. And we had an atheist book. And we showed up at every school where they were supposed to be at, and they did not show up to any. And they couldn't. And then they denied to the press that they were ever going to be there until the school board produced the letter on their letterhead requesting to be there that day. And every day since, we've shown up on that day, and as long as they're not there, we packed up and went home. The first day, we passed out our books, the first year. After that, we haven't. It's like, we don't want to be here either, but we do check every day to see if they're there on that day. This is the key to stopping the Gideon's Bible distributions, is just being involved in your school board and finding out where they're going to be. This is another campaign which I'm very excited about, which we have a lot of the national organizations, including Freedom from Religion Foundation on, is Secular America Votes. We are doing a nationwide voter registration with multiple organizations involved. We'll test this crowd. Based on religious affiliation, what is the largest voting bloc in America? We are. Do you know what the evangelical voter turnout was in the last election? 85%. 81% on voted for Trump. Do you know what our voter turnout was? I'm embarrassed. We don't vote. It was extremely low. And not only do we not vote, it's hard to appeal to us. If you're trying to appeal to the evangelical crowd, what's their single issue? We all know it. Like, everybody in this room knows that's their issue. They're single issue voters. What's our issue? If I went around this room and asked every one of you what is the most important issue to you, I bet you I get 50 different answers. Some might say marriage, LGBT, some might say racial, some might say the environment, like all those issues. Like, we would all have different issues. How do I cater to a bunch of heathens that all have different messages? And you don't vote. So if I want to get votes, all I got to do is say anti-abortion, and now I have 85% vote. If I want your vote, one, you're not voting as a block, and how do I get it? So I have a proposal. And there's one, we need to register people to vote. So we have to vote. We have to have that turnout because we are the largest voting bloc. The other thing is we must become single issue voters. And I'll challenge you with this. Remember I listed all those issues before and I asked you if those were atheist issues? They also had one thing in common. Equality. If you're not for equal rights, we can't vote for you. Think about every one of those issues and any issue you could add on to that. If you said this is an equal rights issue, they're discriminating against us and then talk about your issue. If we became the group of equal rights, that is a single issue that people can understand and say we're no longer going to accept discrimination. Now, when you go into the weeds of the far right's arguments, they all fall apart. But if you go down into our weeds, because there's a lot of issues under that equal rights banner, our arguments even get stronger. But this is what we need to do to make change. Politicians aren't that religious, a lot of them. They're catering to their voting bloc. They're catering to who's giving them the most votes. We can easily change that if we become a force and a bloc that votes as one. Because we are the largest voting bloc. And this is something I would hope in Michigan, especially based on the last election, getting people registered to vote in this state is vital. What about government invocations? I want to tell you one story about this that I just found absolutely amazing. Justin Scott is the American Atheist Director in Iowa, and he's gone around the entire state doing invocations, pissing off mayors, city councils, one at a time. And Florida's done a good job with this too. But Justin had an interesting thing where he had a mayor absolutely refuse to let him come on. And then openly did it and said, this is a Christian place and we're not letting anything but Christian prayers come. He would not let him on. And he kept trying and didn't let up. And the election to be on the ballot, he was running unopposed. So this mayor was running unopposed. And one gentleman who's been established in the community, who was a Christian, got upset that he was discriminating and just being so flat out ornery about only Christian prayers, said, I'm going to run against the mayor based on this issue. And you have to fill in my name. He got 65% of the vote. We had one atheist who brought invocations to the thing. The mayor then met with Justin and said, Justin, I would like to invite you to do an invocation. And Justin said, I'd rather not. He said, what do you mean? He said, I think it would be more inclusive and healing if we just got rid of it altogether. And the mayor did. This is the power of grassroots activism. We might complain at the federal level that we have troubles, and we do. And we can also maybe say there's not much we can do about it at this time. And it's tough. But we can affect our own school boards, our own cities, our own backyard. People are listening. You heard Kimberly, the time is now. These are things that we can do now to make change right now. People are coming out all over that never came out before. My favorite protest sign was even the introverts are here. Like, people are speaking out. Anybody heard of this? This is probably what I got most famous for, is we're going to help you with protest and planning. Every other day there's a protest in Cincinnati, and I'll spend a few minutes talking about this. The Ark Encounter, which is problematic, and I'll give you a few of the problems with it. They received up to $18 million in state tax funds. They have a vow of chastity you have to sign if you're single, promising you won't have sex. 75% of the real estate tax goes back to pay back their junk bond loan. 2% of all employees' paychecks, not only at the Ark, but in surrounding areas, is used to pay back their loan. The county gave them over 100 acres for $1 and over $100,000 in cash. Shall I continue? There is a huge separation of church and state violation here. They made the gate a for-profit company that can receive state tax dollars, but they made a boat a nonprofit to discriminate. Now, we were late to the party. This was already being done even before I was an activist, so we were very late to the party. But the one thing we did was change the story. So what we did is we put up this banner, if you can read it, that said Genocide and Incest Park at their entrance gate. Now that may offend some of you, and you may think that's offensive. And so I went on the radio and said, give me a better word. And nobody could. But what this one thing did, now when I was talking and interviewed, there were 6 documentary film crews there. This made international news. ABC, NBC, Fox News, New York Times, Washington Post, Miami Herald were all there. Do you think I talked about genocide and incest park? No, I talked about the issues I was talking about and how they were lying to kids saying the earth was 6,000 years old and it was anti-science. But I grabbed the world's attention. And so while I put out an offensive headline, I changed the story. The interesting thing about this very thing was almost every story, except for atheist blogs, about the Ark being built was positive by the mass media. After this, almost every story, the majority of them, are negative, or include a link to this, or include negatives about the Ark. Even the Christian Post and the Christian Daily and Christian World News link to our billboard. Anytime the Lexington Herald post about the Ark, which is on a every month basis, they have the video of me talking about the problems of the Ark that they attach to it every single time.